I want to find out whether or not this $5 gacha pork roast can hold up against a $50 gacha pork roast. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co., but more on them later. For those of you who don't know, gacha pork roast is from Food Wars, and it's made by Yukihiras Soma. The reason why he even makes this is because his restaurant is ransacked and he's left with nothing in the restaurant. The only things he has to cook with are the things he just bought for breakfast service, those mostly being potatoes, some mushrooms, and some bacon. He used very cheap ingredients, which is his theme by the way, to make something really delicious. I want to see if we can elevate that a little bit. Maybe make it something a little bit extra, something that I would sell in a potential restaurant or food truck. Let's get started. Now, realistically, the gacha pork roast does take at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours to make from start to finish. That's because it has a ton of time in between where you need to cool the potatoes so you can handle them. In a real restaurant setting, that just doesn't hold up. So the improved version, the one that I'm gonna be making, I think I could actually execute in under 15 minutes. But what I'm doing here is I'm taking some regular russet potatoes. These are the cheapest form of potato I could find. This is for Yukihiras version. We're gonna be steaming this. This goes onto the stove for about 20 to 25 minutes until they're nice and tender. Now we do need a couple more things for Yukihiras version, namely trumpet mushrooms. In his recipe, these are actually meant to absorb a ton of the flavor and the fat from the bacon that we're gonna be wrapping this with. So I'm just gonna be cutting these into nice smaller slices and then just doing a nice mince. I'm also making small versions of this because my wife is gonna be taste testing everything. Once my significant amount of mushrooms are chopped, I'm just gonna set this to the side because we have to cook this in just a little bit. This is way too much mushroom for the amount of potatoes that I did. Next is just a bit of minced or diced onion. This is actually enough onion for both of these gacha pork roasts because yes, each pork roast is going to get essentially the same style of ingredients, but we're gonna be amping it up for that fancy one. I'm doing the same exact thing with the onion, making sure this is nice and minced, so this way when we saute it together with the mushrooms, it's gonna be nice and incorporated into the entire gacha pork roast. Onions, done. Again, this is for both of them. Before I do anything else, I have to put this on. Chefpk.com. Oh, that feels better. There we go. Okay. Now while that first set of potatoes are going, I'm gonna start making the second set of potatoes for the very fancy gacha pork roast. We could call this series But Better, but I think that's taken. These are really beautiful baby Yukon Gold potatoes. These are super creamy, they have a higher moisture content, but they taste amazing. So we're gonna be boiling these in my wok because this is the only other thing that I have to boil stuff in, along with some beautiful purple and red fingerling potatoes. Now, there's gonna be a very interesting thought that I had that's gonna be coming up later with those colored potatoes that I think you guys are gonna like. We're gonna boil these until they're nice and tender too. Now for the mushrooms, for the fancy one, I have some beautiful oyster mushrooms instead of king trumpets. I'm going with oysters just because I really like the texture and flavor that they give off, especially after they're cooked. I love king trumpets as well, but I think I like the oysters a bit more. They also are fairly expensive compared to the king trumpets. Once the mushrooms are chopped, we really don't have too much more prep left. Oh, we can make the bacon for the fancy one. And for that, I have some really beautiful applewood uncured smoked bacon. This means it's not gonna be as salty, so I can control the salt. This pack of bacon was about $12. This bacon for the other gacha pork roast was about $2. You can see I'm trying to stay cheap. So I'm gonna be baking off all of this bacon. You have no clue where I'm going with this because I haven't done this yet. I just drew a picture and I hoped for the best. Now this goes in the oven at 340 for about 15 minutes until it's kind of cooked and not super crispy. We don't super crispy, like maybe 12 minutes. Now one toy that I recently got is an air fryer. Yes, I've gone a long time without one, but I think this is gonna come in handy. Everybody's like, oh, but it's an air fryer. It's just an oven with fans. It doesn't actually fry anything. You can't fry without oil. But in this case, I have some garnishes for the fancy one. This is kopa, the beautiful salami that this is going to be put into there to get crispy, and I'm really excited for it. There's a lot of waiting today. Meanwhile, we'll do more prep. Now, one thing that I really want to try with the fancy gacha pork roast is adding in different types of fat. Now, this is going to be quite a few different ones, okay? We're going to have a bit of this really beautiful French butter. This is 82% butter fat, so it's a super high fat content. This is going to go straight into here. Two other fats that I have are actually some whole milk. It's organic whole milk. This stuff is delicious, and this entire jug was about $8. Not cheap. Now the next fat is actually some heavy cream. Now what I'm really trying to do is just melt this butter down. Then I'm gonna take some rosemary because Yukihiras dish does have rosemary on it. In this case, instead of putting Gandalf, What are you doing up there? In this case, we're gonna put the rosemary into the milk mixture that is gonna go into the potato to steep. We're gonna let this just hang out. It's nice and hot now. We're not gonna do anything else to it. This is when I'm gonna add my heavy cream because I don't wanna boil the heavy cream. Now this is just gonna sit here, stay nice and warm until we need it. It could be up to like 20 minutes. It's gonna be fine. Now the next thing we have to make are the mushrooms and the onions, which will go inside of each gotcha pork roast. We're gonna be starting off with Yukihiras version with some just regular butter. This isn't the fancy French butter. It's still good butter, but it's not this butter. Now I'm gonna saute up about half of the onions, remember, because I need the other half for the second gotcha pork roast. And then we're gonna do just all of the mushrooms. These are the king trumpets. I'm gonna saute this up until everything is nice and golden. You really want everything to cook down quite a bit because there's so much moisture in those mushrooms. Now after a few minutes, my filling is nice and cooked. You can see how it has a little bit of color on there. This is when I get to use my $1 IKEA garlic press, and we're just gonna press 1 clove of garlic into this thing. I'm gonna cook this for just about another minute, and then this filling we can set aside because this is gonna be for Yukihiras version. A little pinch of salt, and this thing is done. Now while I have this pan out and hot, I'm also gonna make the filling for the second gotcha pork roast, which is gonna be the fancy butter with the onions and the oyster mushrooms, and then a little bit of garlic. And while this is sauteing, I'm gonna check those potatoes over there real quick. I wanna show these to you guys. These are Yukihiras potatoes. These are the steamed ones, and you can see the knife just goes right in. Those are ready. We're just gonna leave them until we're ready for them. These mushrooms look freaking gorgeous. These are done. Okay, can't mess these up. These are for the butter, and these are for Yukihiras. But now I can deal with this potato. This stuff is freaking piping hot. And because I still have the skin on them, I have to take the skins off. Didn't feel like peeling them ahead of time, which I should have. It's fine, we got this. We have peeled potatoes. Now, I don't have like a wooden dowel that Yukihira uses, but I do have a traditional American style potato masher, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna roughly mash these, because remember, this doesn't get any butter, milk, cream, anything, because the idea is that you're gonna have this chunkiness in there that's going to, yes, Gandalf, I know, it's a weird recipe, but you know, we're just doing our best, right? It's supposed to absorb a lot of the fats from the bacon that goes right in there. We ended up just using all of it. All the mushrooms I said we weren't gonna use, that's in there now. Now, once everything is nice and mixed together and it's nice and mashed, you do need to taste this for salt. There's no salt. They're very bland. I'm gonna season this little by little, make sure I don't oversalt it, because the sauce will also have salt from the soy sauce, but I think this is good. Now, this has to be wrapped and cooled down and put in the fridge for a bit. If you're doing this for like a restaurant setting, that would actually be pretty difficult to execute. Even if they were wrapped in bacon, ready to like throw in the oven, it would still take 30 to 40 minutes minimum to cook. But in this case, we have YouTube magic, so this is just going in the fridge. A few things are happening all at once now. Bacon is done for the fancy version of this. Now, this is also warmed up and ready to go, so I have to throw something in there. Into this thing, I'm gonna take a few slices of this copa, this salami, right? We're gonna pop it into the air fryer for like 5 minutes. What we're trying to do is get it crispy. Remember I also said that the fancy version is getting 4 types of fat? We have the butter, the milk, the heavy cream, and now we have bacon fat. Because this is not being roasted with the bacon, I'm adding in the fat into the potatoes. So it's not cheating. Copa, 3.5 minutes. Let's do the potatoes for the fancy version. Now remember I said, these still are gonna be peeled and I'm gonna put them through a ricer. I don't have a ricer, so we're gonna use the next best thing. This is just a strainer. You can use it in lieu of a ricer. So I'm gonna put these into here. Now I'm gonna press these directly through this thing. And it should release, oh, this is too big of a spoon. This is also gonna make them super smooth, as opposed to the chunkiness that is Yukihira's, because I'm gonna add chunky in a different way. See how easy that is with one of these? Make sure we scrape everything off of here. And then look, all of the skin is left inside. This is probably done. I have a feeling. Oh my God, it's so crispy. Now this is gonna get some of the mushroom. Okay, this is where some of the chunky comes in. Give this a nice mix. And then I'm just gonna leave this because I have to do the other add-in right now. Now for these beautiful potatoes that have some color on them, we're gonna leave the skin on. To take something flat, throw a little bit of oil on it. This is just like a Turkish coffee pot. Make sure you rub this down just a bit, and we're gonna do one of these. Hopefully we can keep it whole. Almost, that's okay. I'm gonna take this, and this, my friends, is gonna go into the air fryer. We're gonna hit this with just a pinch of salt. We're gonna do this for the other ones too. This is what's going in there. Now these smashed taters, a little bit of salt, they're gonna go into our oven with a fan for like 5 or 6 minutes. I'm gonna throw in just a little bit of oil, get these nice and crispy. This is gonna be awesome. These potatoes have just finished, like they literally are ready to go. Look at how gorgeous that looks. You know what, let's just dig into one. Cheers. Oh, I don't actually need these right now. These are gonna be added in right before we plate up so they stay somewhat crispy, but my God, so good. But now I can add our 4 different fats into our fancy mashed potatoes here. I'm only gonna add a little bit at a time because you still don't want this to be fully saturated. You're still just treating this as a really nice mashed potato. Give this a mix. The idea is to get these very creamy still. Gonna continue to add just like 1 or 2 spoons at a time, so it's not super wet by the end of it. And after a few minutes, I think this is ready. It still holds its shape, doesn't collapse in on itself. It still looks super creamy. Let's give this a quick taste, see if it needs salt or anything else. Definitely needs salt. One last taste. That's good. This has to sit hot. So what I have here is a pseudo bain-marie, which means just water and another pot to keep this hot. This is essentially what I would do in a restaurant. Keep the mashed potatoes nice and hot because you're obviously not making mashed potatoes to order. Take some aluminum foil, place this on top to keep it sealed and warm, and that's not a big enough piece, but that's okay. Now this is gonna sit until we're ready to plate up both, which is gonna be in about an hour because we're still waiting on Rachel to get back. We gotta have a blind taste test, you know? This little tiny gacha pork roast, this is Yukihira's version, has actually been in the fridge for 45 minutes to almost an hour, and it kind of still feels warm, but because of time, I am gonna be wrapping it now. Now you see why I said this probably wouldn't work in a restaurant environment, but I really, really wanna compare the two. Now this is going to be wrapped in a few layers of bacon. That's a lot of bacon. That's 6 slices of thick cut bacon. Then we're gonna take our log, and I guess we'll just do that. Now we have to try to make sure we get maximum coverage. So we're gonna go up here, up on this side. Then we're gonna bring in the rest of it. And then I'm gonna turn it. This way, like the stuff on the bottom, right, the seam will stay there, and you really don't have to wrap it, but I'm gonna wrap it just a little bit anyways, just in case, because it feels really thick, but it's pretty simple to put together. Now the main reason why you would wanna actually wrap this is to prevent the bacon from opening up while it's baking. Piece of string under here. This might be a little difficult because it is bacon, but I think we should be okay. I'm gonna try to be very gentle here. Try to get a couple of these on here, make sure it's nice and secure. I think we'll go for 3 across it this way, and then we'll go for 1. I think I'm gonna have to do 2 strings across the top, cut off any excess string. This guy looks beautiful, not gonna lie. So this is gonna go onto a sheet tray because Yukihira definitely doesn't use a wire rack. And this thing is gonna go in at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. And admittedly, I reheated the oven forgetting that I kept the bacon in there. So I saved it. It cooked all the way through, which is not what I wanted, but we're gonna work with it. I wanted it to be a little under, but this is gonna work really well. But now I have to cut this right now. Otherwise I think it'll be too crispy later. And then we're gonna get nice chunks of bacon. I think this pile is enough for what I want to do. I'm not going to discard this because I still might need it later. Oh, I forgot the rosemary. This has to go on Yukihira's gacha pork roast. Now it's been about 35 minutes on this gacha pork roast. This is Yukihira's version. This looks really nice. The bacon has cooked really nicely. We have a kind of exploding situation, but I think this is gonna be okay. Now this does have to rest for another 5 to 10 minutes before we can cut it open because otherwise it just might fall apart. So we're gonna let this hang out while we're getting sauces ready. Now the first sauce I'm making is Yukihira's version, which is 2 ounces of very cheap red wine. Came out of a box. It's one of those. Then I have about 2 ounces of cooking sake that I'm gonna add to this. And finally, 2 ounces of soy sauce. Now I'm gonna let this cook for maybe a minute or so. We're not gonna let this reduce too far, otherwise it might be too thick. We're basically just trying to cook out a lot of the alcohol that's in there. Now, with this ready to go, remember, just about a minute, I'm gonna turn the heat down to a very, very low. We don't want it to boil because now I'm gonna throw in some cold butter. Remember, this is the cheaper butter. This is essentially mounting the liquid with butter. And what I'm doing is trying to make sure that it incorporates properly, but maybe using this pan was a bad idea. Once the butter is melted, I'm gonna kick this back to like a medium heat and try not to break the butter sauce. Now, after another like 2 to 3 minutes at a medium heat, this sauce is ready to go. You don't need to season it with salt because of the soy sauce, so this just needs to sit over to the side until we need it and we can make the second sauce. Now for the second sauce. This is where it gets spicy. Not literally, we're just gonna have a little more fun. This, my friends, is a very nice bottle of wine. This bottle of wine was around $35. That means you'd be paying north of $100 for this bottle of wine in a restaurant. Now, because I want some extra smoky flavor, I'm using this smoked shoyu. This stuff is about also $30 a bottle, and it goes a long, long way. So I'm gonna add just a small amount because we're gonna add some later. This one is gonna get the fancy butter. This is the 84%, 82% butterfat French butter that we're gonna throw into here. This is the expensive stuff. I'm gonna reduce this for another minute or so. I wanna get this a little thicker than the other one was. After this is reduced to my liking, I'm gonna throw in my 2 big dabs full of butter, kill the heat so it's not too hot initially, and I'm just gonna stir this until that butter is incorporated. There's no butter chunks left. Throw this back on the heat, not too hot, medium heat, constantly stirring to hopefully not break it. This is done. Now, we're ready to plate up. First one we're gonna plate up is the gotcha pork roast because I think it'll hold up the best. Now, here's the thing with the gotcha pork roast. I've actually made this 5 or 6 times, and each time it comes out relatively well. The only thing that I dislike about it is the prep time. So if you're making this, make sure you spend a bit of time on it. You're gonna need about 2 hours to make it start to finish. I have to remove all of the twine because no one wants to eat this. I'm gonna try to be very careful because it looks like it's coming out the sides. That's okay. Okay, there's so much bacon grease in this house. We're not gonna sauce it until we have both ready. So I'm gonna put this back into the microwave just to stay warm while we finish the fancy version. But the problem is I don't know how to plate this. So we're gonna use our creative judgment here. Starting off with these little guys. This is so good. But this one is gonna be incorporated into the fancy gotcha pork roast, so it has some texture to it. Then we also have the air fried copa. This we're just gonna break up as we need it. We just want 1 piece. Then we have the bacon we need. We have a few more garnishes. Let's plate this thing out. It's gonna be weird. You're gonna need a ring mold that I have to spray down just a little bit so nothing sticks. Place this right into the center of your plate. Grab some of the mashed potatoes. Now again, the idea is you'd be able to serve this in a restaurant. So you might have this mashed potato ready to go. It's nice and hot. So this way you can utilize it for multiple dishes. If we have this, we can intro other stuff into it. First, we're gonna do the copa. Maybe only like half of this purple potato. Do just a bit of fresh chives that I had cut up as well. And then we can just gently fold all of this together. Throw this right into the center of the mold. You see how quick that would be to pick up if you were in a professional place? Then, very secret ingredient. This is a 28-month aged Gouda. This is so good. We're gonna do just a bit of this because it is very strong. Then the bacon. This is how it's, to me, still a gotcha pork roast. We're going to layer the bacon on here, but we wanna try to fully cover this thing. We wanna try to hide it as much as possible because again, the whole theme is that you don't know that it's potato under there. Then we can remove this thing, but it's clearly still potato, so this is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever made. I think we did it. I'm happy with this. Take a paper towel, dab any additional oil, and now both of these are ready to sauce. Yukihiras gets soy sauce, red wine sauce. Both of them are gonna get a bit of daikon sprouts right on top. And then the fancy version is gonna get the sauce on the side. This way it can be poured table side. This one will also get chive to denote that there is chive in it. And there are the 2 versions of gotcha pork roast. I don't wanna say how much they are because Rachel is standing right there. So she gets to do the taste test. And then I'll tell her what each of them cost. Let's do this. And if you want something a little sweet to go with your savory, you can check out today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co are both subscription snack box services that come straight to your door so you can have a taste of Japan. And Tokyo Treat's snack box this month is a very special October Halloween snack box. And both Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co both come with up to 20 different snacks per box, like this really wonderful sweet potato Kit Kat. I don't know how it actually tastes like sweet potato. This box is jam-packed with so many goodies, I can't even tell you what they are. That's where their wonderful booklet comes in that tells you exactly what is in each snack box. And since this is the special Halloween box, if you use the code OnScreenTreats23, you can get up to 8 different mystery trick or treat snacks. And in my case, I got a trick. I got some very, very special 20th anniversary spicy looking chips. Tricks on me. That's pretty good. But if you're looking for something a little more sophisticated, you can pick up the Sakura Co box. And this month, you're gonna be getting a taste of Kyoto in the fall. Just like in the Tokyo Treat box, you're gonna get an absolutely beautiful book describing everything that is in this box. What's great about the Sakura Co box is they work with local confectionery makers to give you things that you can't find anywhere else. Not only will you get treats, but you get something else to go with it. And in this case, I get this really beautifully painted dish. And normally, to go along with a lot of the sweets in the Sakura Co box, you're going to get a very beautiful tea to go along with it. That's delightful. and the tea helps cut a lot of the sweetness. That's really good together. If you're a snack monster like me, pick up Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co. at the link down below and you're going to get yourself a very special discount. Thank you again to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Now back to this gacha pork roast to see whether or not my version is better than Yukihira's version. You're gonna be trying the first gacha pork roast and then you'll try the second one. So this one is the Yukihira special.
Cheers.
What do you think?
Bacony,
Okay.
salty, potatoey.
Pretty good, right?
They're pretty good.
Pretty good.
I would eat a whole log.
You wouldn't poop right for a month.
No.
How much would you pay for this?
I'm pretty sure it would be like a $25
Okay.
like thing on a menu.
Okay, that's fair. Because the ingredients for this were about $5.50 to $6. So it's not bad. To make all of this was about $5 because we only use a few slices of the bacon. Now, this one is the fancy version. Now you don't actually need a knife for this one, but dear viewers, this one has another kind of twist to it. This one has to be paired with this wine. Don't spit yet.
I didn't.
It's very nice.
It
Okay,
smells really good.
sauce goes on now. Oh God,
Making
it's
a
everywhere.
mess.
Oh God, it's everywhere. Okay, maybe don't splash that far out. Now, please enjoy.
Oh, that's thick.
That is thick.
Oh, that's thick.
Now you have to take a sip of the wine. That's why it's the price that I'm gonna reveal.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah,
That's what I said.
That's really good. It's like super rich, bacony, cheesy. Is there mushroom in there?
There is mushrooms too. But which one would you order?
This one.
This one? This one with the glass of wine.
Did you try it
I
yet?
did not. If we count for the price of ingredients, was $50.
Okay.
That's really good. This version, you can have it for cheaper than $50. You don't need it with wine. I will try to put a recipe together for this one at the link down below at chefpk.com, where you can also pre-order our books, which are almost have arrived. We're still waiting on the shipment, but you can still pre-order them. My name is Chef PK, and remember, keep playing with your food. Let's do this, ready?